Welcome back to another recording of the Elevate Media Podcast. I'm Chris Anderson, your host. Today we get a live episode, so if you're watching, you're going to see a little bit different. We're going to have someone here with me, which is amazing. I think it's one of our first in-person interviews, which is cool. So,
what an honor.
Yeah. We have the mayor of our town here in Tipton, Indiana, Kegan Schmicker. Welcome to the Elevate Media Podcast today,
my
Kegan.
pleasure, certainly. Thank you.
Absolutely.
To be the
Super
first.
excited. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So, go local, right? Start local, which is awesome. So super excited to have this conversation. Just going to dive into, leadership, mindset, because, running a business, like you all know, listening to running a town, a city, there are ups and downs. There are things you have to navigate, and having a good mindset and having a good leadership direction is important. So to kind of dive into it, and we're not going to dive really into politics in this episode, but what kind of guided you or kind of led you into becoming a mayor?
It certainly wasn't the plan. I joke with people that maybe it was a psychotic break that occurred, but really my journey into leadership started when I was in high school, and I had to give a lot of thanks to my mother, who I think was the one who really pushed, challenged me, encouraged me to get involved, and just do simple things. Student council that then led to an opportunity to go out to Boston for a leadership summit, and I can't even remember what it was even for, but I can remember going to Boston, being with students from across the country, and that led into college at Butler University, and I just found myself seeking leadership opportunities. And so as we fast forward to modern day, I've always sought those opportunities, being part of a leadership team on a board of directors, president or vice president of a board of directors, and ran for county commissioner back in 2018. And I think that's when maybe I discovered this opportunity that I really wanted to have a local impact. And so that led me to this opportunity to run for mayor, and where I am today. It's just that ambition, that desire to serve people and to lead and make a local impact is what really drives me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's such some people, I found myself going kind of almost not thrusted into leadership positions, but no one stepping up, and I kind of want to be able to guide that the best I can, and kind of stepping into things like that it can be difficult sometimes, right? Because you can't please everyone,
right?
You're not going to be able to please everyone as hard as you try. So how do you navigate that? As a leader, as a mayor, as student council, how do you navigate leading people when you're not going to make everyone happy?
Yeah, that is certainly one of the more difficult aspects of this, because it's not as simple as you're just not going to please everyone, right? That now you've introduced these communication tools that allow people to voice their opinions and concerns and displeasure, and that's the thing that's probably the most challenging. Is what I stay convicted on is this vision that we have a really great community, and the things that I think we need to achieve, a lot of it's internal improvements. Some of it's just taking advantage or addressing the issues that we know to be the issues, and that the solutions, we're not going to get it right every time. It's impossible,
right,
for anybody on this planet to get everything right all the time. And so I try to approach it from an entrepreneurship mentality, that failure, if you're going to fail fast, right? Figure out it won't work, so then you can find the next best solution. And that's why I try to tell my department heads that as well, is we've got to take some risks. And accept the fact that we're going to fail sometimes, but let's own it, acknowledge that we failed, and then find the next best solution. So pleasing, they say please 51% of the people. Well, it's the 51% that don't seem to participate on any of these communication channels. But staying convicted to a vision, I think, is important. Understanding what the vision is, the strategies that you need to implement. To me, that's been critical.
Yeah, because I think, business owner, in the political scene, you're really tasked with navigating hard decisions and impossible decisions. There is no perfect right answers. You're just gonna have to have those moments of this is just what it is. And the goal, like you said, that vision of where we want to get to, we just have to keep moving towards it. And the collateral damage is gonna happen. There is gonna be that negativity, that imperfection, and And then once you get to that goal, that's when you're like, everyone's like, oh yeah, great job, this is good.
Yeah,
But
right.
along the way,
Yeah.
this it's the opposite
And
from
some of the things
there.
I would say with public service, which is maybe more unique than just running a business, part of my past is you're so much more exposed to. It's hard to express to people that these things are incremental. Like we knew that this wouldn't solve the problem, but it got us closer to the goal, right? So people are. It's just harder to explain that sometimes that we knew this wasn't the solution, but it did help us get closer to the solution. Whereas in business, sometimes that people don't notice it, right? Don't acknowledge it. But
when you're thrusted into like whether that be social media, you have a big following, political spots, like you're just put on the pedestal or under the microscope, and people they don't always get all the data, they don't always get all the information. It's just what they heard or what they see or what they even just decide to talk about, and it's like you don't have the whole picture. Like, you don't know. Like, yes, we had to make this decision because that's the only way we could get that positive change happening, kind of thing. I think of it like sometimes you have to let people go in business on your team to better the future for both people. Because maybe they're just not a fit, and so that they need a different route to get them where they need to go, and the business, can't keep dragging that person along in a better sense of the word. And so for the betterment of the future of both people, you have to make the initial painful cut in that moment, and it hurts everyone.
Correct.
But it leads to better growth. In the future.
Correct.
And so I think it's just hard for people to understand that when they're not in those different positions, for sure.
Agreed.
Yeah. So what would you say kind of your leadership style is? Because there's so many out there. Are you pretty, I would say I'm pretty straightforward. I'm pretty like to the point of like, let's get this done. This is what we need to do. Go solve it sort of thing. Or you've kind of, would you say your leadership approach is?
Yeah. I want to say I'm aspiring to be a visionary leader and we've done this. We've created this Tipton Thrive strategic plan, really trying to start with the vision for the community. And so using that as the basis for the actions that we take here on out, that's what's our guiding star. So that's where I've tried to lead the city from even a department head perspective is what are our goals? What are the things we're hoping to accomplish? What are the realities that we're challenged with? Some of the things even just taking a current assessment. What exists today? And the painful next question is, what condition is it in? So that's where where's the goal? What does the future look like? Because if we've got to make some sacrifices in the short term, we know that those sacrifices are in an effort to get to the promised land. And on the other side of this is a reality where we're all benefiting because we made those short-term sacrifices. So I think that's a better way to lead, certainly a city, because like a small community like Tipton, we've frankly been in maintenance mode for a long time. So it's impressing upon department heads that we're all here trying to make sacrifices. But because of those sacrifices, we'll get to a better position where we no longer need to sacrifice.
Right. Yeah. Sacrifice now for the betterment future kind of thing and the gain and with that. And that comes with, having to have some thick skin a little bit, which I'm sure, you probably dealt with or grown to have as well through this process. But with your mindset, that's not not everyone's just born with thick skin to be able to take all that negativity. How did you learn? What are some things you do to kind of help you navigate those situations? Have you gotten better at it?
Yeah, certainly gotten better at it. It's not something that I think just as people, it maybe even our generation, that with the introduction of social media, like we've become so in tune with what other people think. That's what social media has trained us to believe. That is so necessary to our survival. So I'll say like the mental health impacts of accepting this position, winning this election, has really been this is probably the greatest challenge that I've experienced personally is the mental health challenge of it. So dealing with it, sometimes it's for social media specifically, and I'll address that one. It's been trying to tune in less, not to quit listening,
Right.
but it's to protect your own mental health so that you don't go down that same spiral
Yep.
into believing that nothing's going to work, or the things we're doing are not achieving the goals or the expectations. It's to help protect that. Look, we knew that this would be bumpy,
Right.
and there's a lot of these decisions that we've made already that we knew before the decision was made. These are not going to be celebrated.
Yep.
But they're necessary.
Yep.
You know, so that's what you just try to take convicted to that. We knew this would happen, and so you just try to shield yourself enough that you don't get too caught into that downward spiral. And then this is something that I've had to learn over the last year too. Is those people who helped me get to this position, the friends and family around me. Sometimes when things are hardest, at least my tendency is to isolate,
Right.
and that is not the solution. The pathway out of that, right, is to seek isolation.
Right.
But that's just how I process. So really challenging myself to lean and communicate with those people because they care as much about me as I them. So remembering that and always staying in communication with those people.
That's good. Yeah. And it's crazy. Like, we think back in the day, like if you were a mayor in a town and you did something people didn't like, you weren't going to know about it unless you read an article in the paper.
Yeah.
And that's like not that blaring because you can just go throw it away.
Yeah, correct.
Or you have people come to your office or protest. But even then, it's like a one-time thing.
Yeah, correct.
Like now it's literally like you open your phone, notification, and you can see it constantly. And it's like, and I feel bad for the younger kids. I mean, I have young kids, and it's like protecting them from that because there's so much comparison. There's so much hate out there, negativity, like just they're getting bombarded with it. And so like the mental aspect of it is like so important to be able to help support that. Do you have any ways that you kind of, when you get stressed or like kind of anxious, or maybe the things that you go to that help kind of, besides talking to your friends and family that have supported you, you know, for me, I like running. I don't know if you have an outlet kind of thing.
Some of those things, golf is a passion of mine that I've really gotten away from, just the busyness of life and work and family. And so someone I'm trying to get back to. I'd say some others last fall, it was around Thanksgiving, just really had challenging time, community, city-wise. And so I took a day and I went over to a turkey run.
Oh, awesome.
And just went to the state park and really just tried to connect back with nature, trying to reset your mind, and that helps you, for me at least, again, maybe it was that isolationism, but it allowed me to think and process, and what are the facts and details, and some of that seeking nature is something I would love to get back into is hunting, and that's something that was part of my childhood.
That's awesome.
I've got a deer in a record book at the
awesome.
state level.
Okay.
But I think the passion for me was being with nature. You got to see nature wake up and go to sleep. And maybe that's why I sought Turkey Run, is it was an opportunity to re-engage with nature and just be in some silence and the smells and the sounds. And that was, I think, refreshing, re-energizing for me.
I bet. Yeah. Like, and I love that because I'm the same way. Like, I grew up, my grandparents lived down in Spencer, Indiana, Owen County. Yeah. So we would always go down there, I'd be in the woods. Never was a hunter or anything, but I love nature, love being outside. So I started hunting a couple years ago. Oh, yeah. And I love it. I got my first deer last season.
Very good. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah. So just being out there, like the stillness now, because everything is so connected online, always going with their phones. Like just having that, like for me, like just really a moment where I can spend time with God and just be in silence. Right. And actually maybe hear him.
Yes, correct. You're right.
There's nothing out there to disturb that.
Yep. It is a fascinating phenomenon. I think just literally watching the world wake up from nature's perspective. You get out and pitch dark, silence, nothing's moving, to then all of a sudden you hear the subtle rustles, the birds chirping, and then you get to see it. First you hear it, right? And then you get to see it, and it's the squirrels rustling around and the crunching leaves, and the like the blue jays always stick out to me, and then the crows, and then inevitably you see maybe a possum or a groundhog or something. Right. And you're always convinced that's a deer.
I know.
The squirrels are the worst.
Oh, gosh.
They sound like 300-pound animals.
Yeah,
and you're
it's like, something's coming.
Tree rodents.
Yep. Yes. Yep.
They're running around.
Yep.
It is that. I mean, that's what I really miss is
Yeah.
just being there and experiencing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and golf. You mentioned that. Like,
Yep.
I love to golf. I don't golf as much as I could or should.
Yes.
I'm not good, so
No, yeah,
it's
correct.
not necessarily good unwind. I'm
Yep.
getting better because it is. It's like you versus you, so you have to control that mindset of like
Yes.
next hole, like next swing
Correct.
kind of thing. So that's cool. That's awesome. But that's like an important thing too that I've had to learn as like a business owner is like not always being like on. Like
Yeah.
you have to prioritize that time, even if it's like just in the evening, have a a cup of tea or something, just sitting on the patio, just like
Sure.
away
Yep.
from everything else. Yeah. Or do you have any little things like that you do?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. So that's more challenging. I've got a 5-month-old now. So those
Congrats on that,
times
yeah.
are fleeting.
Yeah.
That.
For sure.
But that's, I think, to start the year, and it came pretty close to welcoming her to the world. One change I did make that has made a drastic improvement is shutting off the notifications of my work email coming to my phone. I still
Oh,
have it
yeah.
on my phone,
Yep.
and I still check it.
Yep.
But it's not. I don't constantly get that notification
Right.
that a new email has come through.
Yep.
A lot of them that come through, frankly, are non-urgent anyway. There's always the ones that are urgent. But that has helped tremendously. It has allowed me to be more intentional with my family, so there's less distraction that frankly took me away from. I'm eating dinner and found myself, the cliche example of I found myself looking at my phone rather than engaging with my 5-year-old or my wife. And so that's really helped. That I think it goes back to a previous question you asked, how do you deal with maybe the mental aspects, the mental health aspects of this. And that's helped tremendously. It's just being, so when I'm home, I feel so much more present in that I'm there to be a father and a husband, not to be mayor.
Right.
And so that's been a big deal. And I've got some, to that point, and I'm just rambling.
No, you're good.
I've got some really fantastic neighbors. That was one thing that I was nervous about.
Okay.
How often do you get to say, like, my neighbor's the mayor?
Right.
And so there's always that concern that maybe they'd be like, oh, mayor, I've got a
Things are
concern.
going to change. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But they haven't. I've been so impressed with my neighbors that they've really just treated me as a human. And I can't understate just how valuable that is, that I just get treated as a person.
Yeah. And sometimes, like, being in that role, obviously, of leadership, like, people forget you are a human.
You're correct.
Yeah. And humans are not perfect.
Yes,
and
exactly.
So, so, like, having neighbors that understand that or are treating you in that way is a really cool thing to hear.
Yeah.
But with leadership, too, comes, obviously, we are judged a little bit different and put on pedestals and stuff. Have you ever had a moment where you took action maybe without all the answers, where you had to like just make a decision that you're like, I don't know, I don't have the answers for this one, but we got to keep moving forward regardless? That was kind of like navigating unknown waters. I mean, obviously becoming mayor probably was one, but
I know the answer to this is yes.
Yeah.
And I'm failing to recall an example. And I think this is just one thing that I don't know if it's a strength or not, but when I make a decision, it's with conviction that whether I have all the answers or what I think is enough to make a decision, I've made the decision. And I don't dwell on the decision, though I may look back and go, boy, maybe you should have waited for the next piece of information or, that maybe wasn't the greatest. But I think an example of that may have been, and this gets into a little local controversy, but taking down the stoplights downtown, where we had this environment where we had flashing lights and stop signs, and you knew that the best solution was to take down the lights. Those are going to create controversy. We didn't have maybe all the information necessary to what is it going to look like into the future? How are we going to problem solve? Or what is the environment going to look like to support stop signs? But we knew the next best step was to remove the infrastructure. And some of it had already been cut anyway, so it was unusable from that perspective. So that's probably an example of that. But I try to stay convicted to not dwell and second guess, and because that's what creeps in and creates the doubt. And then you've maybe get into analysis paralysis. I try to stay true to this. Let's make a decision. Stay convicted to the decision. based on as much information as you can leverage.
For sure. And I think that's why, like kind of you mentioned earlier, having that anchor of like, this is the goal.
Correct.
Like, this is the goal of our town. This is the goal of the business. This is the goal of, my personal journey.
Yep.
And having that kind of pull you in the direction you need to go, even with you, because we don't always have all the answers. We don't always have all the information. We just have to make the best as we can.
Yep.
And kind of keep moving forward. Who is someone you've looked up to as a leader that you've maybe gained some mentorship or wisdom from, even if it's not, if they haven't been around, just through books or something?
Yeah, certainly there's both in leading up to becoming mayor, the campaign, now being mayor, there's definitely mayors who are regional to Tipton that I've gotten to know and have respected for a while. Even former Mayor Don Havens was somebody I worked with, and he became a mentor. I really get to understand the importance, the viewpoints, or analyzing decisions from a public servant's perspective, the things that should be considered, the questions that should be asked. And so there's certainly Mayor Jensen. A lot of the mayors that I've gravitated toward are mayors of county seats.
Okay.
So similar to Tipton. Tipton is the county seat of Tipton County. So there's just some really unique nuances that come with that. So Mayor Jensen down in Noblesville he's a fascinating leader. That's somebody who's so charismatic. I mean, he possesses things that I'll never be able to possess. But this is natural charisma and I think just ability to people, to converse and chat and remembers seemingly everybody's name. And Mayor Gentry over in Lebanon, he's another one, younger. I think he may be even younger than I am on his third term over in Lebanon. Another good leader who's helped Lebanon really achieve some really strong growth. Mayor Marsh down in Greensburg. He's probably more similar to Tipton in respect to population-wise. Sure. But again, another leader who came into office at a young age has really helped lead some transformative projects down there and get Greensburg to wake up, I think, is a fair accusation to make. So those three are certainly ones that I've enjoyed getting to know more about, how they've balanced this work-life balance. It's a buzzword, I suppose, that we've heard for a long time, but it seems to be the challenge.
I always say harmony. Work-life harmony, because
that's good.
With balance, something weighs more than the other. So you got to figure out how to make it work.
Prophetic, that's
priorities and things.
That's good.
That's one big thing, and that's cool. I think, especially when you mentioned the one, the mayor who's younger than you.
Yep.
I thought that's cool because I think we can learn from anyone, younger, older.
Yes.
So I thought that was a really cool thing that you mentioned him specifically, and it's cool because everyone has done different things.
Yes.
They've had different successes.
Yep.
So for you, what would you define success as a mayor, or even as Kegan, the father, husband?
Yeah, this is one I would admit as a character flaw. There's so much of my personal self-worth that I attribute to my professional successes that I don't think is healthy. I would never encourage somebody to do that, but it's something I can't shake. So I'm always driven towards success.
Yep.
So my personal satisfaction seems so tied to my professional satisfaction. So to me, for Tipton, it's to see this downtown in Tipton revitalized, redeveloped, to become this economic engine that it was at the turn of the century.
Right.
Is really what I'm trying to lead here in the city of Tipton, is that this is achievable. This is a goal. Sure, we might be the first in the state of Indiana from a rural perspective to do this, but why not?
Why not? Yeah.
There's nobody geographically better located to Indianapolis
100%.
than rural Tipton County.
Yeah.
But we could really define what it is, what it means to be Tipton as a small community in central Indiana, the quintessential destination place to visit. Where do you want to go to shop one of our beautiful retail shops, eat at any of our new eateries? You wanted to live in downtown in any of the second stories, visit our historic Diana Theater, come to our park and splash pad and golf at our golf course. There's so many reasons that I could market to a person to come here. We got to build that infrastructure first, and it starts with downtown.
Yeah.
So that's, as I look at success, it's downtown's number one. Keep number one priority. But then I always challenge myself that it's very important for me. There's only one thing in life I've ever wanted to be. and that's a dad.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be a dad.
Yeah.
And so to have two beautiful young daughters, that is something that I really cherish. And getting up in the middle of the night to help with the night feeding and changing the diapers. This is something that, sure, the initial wake up is rough.
Right, yeah.
But that's never a responsibility that I ever want to delegate or get rid of.
Yep.
So that's also very important to me, is to be that supportive spouse and to be a good, intentional, purposeful father that's spending the time and I don't know, playing on the playgrounds and going to the parks and going on vacation. That's something that's just not something I think about.
Right.
Honestly, another character defect. I don't think about vacation.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to be purposeful over the last 2 years, and this is the
Same
family
way,
time.
yeah.
These are the opportunities, the memories, and otherwise we only have
What's it all for?
You only have 18 summers with your kids.
Yeah.
That is such a devastating thing to think about.
I know.
But that's
true. Because I got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Wow, yeah.
And we're got another on the way.
Very good. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's like, it is like, you think of it that way. Like that ultimately is like why I quit doing when I was my career as an athletic trainer, why I quit to start a business. I chose a simpler path for a harder one because of what it allowed me to do by spending time with my kids more and being present and showing them a different way. And I call myself early on with, especially my first son, of like, just being building a business, being tired, then being tired from them and take care of them. The moment it stands out in my mind, I always remember, and I'll always remember as I make decisions, is he was asking to be picked up. And I was so tired. And he had been continually wanting to be picked up and stuff. And I was like, almost said no. Well, I did originally say no. And I said, wait. I said, he's not going to always want to be picked up. And I'm not always going to be able to pick him up. And so I'm going to do it until I can't. Until I pick him up. So I always try to remember that, like these will end one day. Like these days, they're going to be. And I think if there's a stat that says you as a parent only have until they are like 7 years old to impact their life and their mindset. After that, it's majority coming from school, external connections. So we only have 7 years to make an impact. And then after like 16 or 18, you make zero impact because it's like, so it's crazy. And so like super like cherishing those moments and like involving them in things. And so I love that perspective. What would you say would be a success for you? Something your daughter could tell you that you'd be like, wow, okay, like I'm doing the right thing.
From her mind, either something related to like the park system. Of course, we just installed that new playground equipment. So I think if she came back and she was there when we cut the ribbon and played on that. In fact, we visited the park no fewer than 3 times that weekend. Probably something along those lines. If it was in her stage of life right now, like the park is going to be the biggest contributor to her sense of enjoyment as a kid. So she came back and like I had a lot of fun at the park or the pool. I think that would be one of the biggest accomplishments. But again, that's so work related. Like that's why. But here recently we've been making eggs in the morning. Her favorite breakfast meal is egg and cheese.
Nice.
So she's been helping. And so I suppose maybe that's the real answer, because her level of enjoyment, satisfaction, how proud she gets that she cracked the egg and all by herself and, and dumped it into the cup, and she's helping stir it, and she dumps it into the skillet. And she's really taking on that responsibility because every time she accomplishes a task, cracks the egg, she's got to tell mom, Daddy helped me crack the egg. Or then just, Daddy helped me stir it up. Daddy helped me dump it into, and most times it's just her doing it. I'm just there chaperoning. So I think that's probably the honest answer. I get so fixated on work. I told you, it's a character defect.
No, I understand. It's like trying to be present in those moments, and I think just at the end of the day, like the kids knowing like Dad was there, like,
Yep.
and having those memories like that.
Yep.
I think at the end of the day is a big thing. And kind of, getting close to our time on the episode, it's been great conversation. At the end of the day, like the end of the day, when everything is said and done,
Yep.
if everything you did as mayor, as a husband, as a father, was going to be forgotten, but you could have one thing be remembered for people, what would that one thing be?
I think at the end of the day, the one thing that I wanted to matter most is that I raised strong, independent daughters.
Yeah.
That's what I want to be. Everything else could be forgotten, but I think that's what I invest. That's why I want to be so present in their lives.
Yep.
There's so much data that's driven based on a father figure
100%.
being involved and active with daughters especially.
Yep.
But that's what I would, the one thing. If everything else got forgotten, and I wouldn't regret any of that at all. But if I raised two strong, independent women that grew up to change this world, and that's up for them to decide what that means.
Yep,
but
exactly.
so long as I equip them with the tools and abilities, and I want them to have a seat at the table, whatever table they decide that is.
That's awesome. I love that. And if you could have one word of wisdom to be remembered for leaders, we'll say specifically leaders in the community, what would that one word of wisdom be?
Kevin told me to pause.
Yeah.
I think I'm overdoing the pause now.
No, you're good.
Okay.
The pause is good.
I think it's to seek the next question. I think in this world we come to accept the first piece of news that we receive is from the subject matter expert or anybody else who has a contrary thought. It's now your burden to prove that wrong.
Right.
Whereas we've not, when you hear something that maybe is controversial or isn't the news you expected, it's ask the next question.
Yeah.
From a true perspective of learning. And I think that's what we've gotten away from, is we're always looking for the sensational piece of information or news. And so I think that it doesn't create, it sees maybe more discord than constructive progress. And so if we just ask the next question with a genuine question, then I think we can all get to a better understanding, a better circumstance, a better strategy, a better solution into the future.
I like that. I think asking questions, can't go wrong there. And so for the final thing, we like to do a little bit of a rapid fire. So whatever comes to your mind first on these.
Oh boy.
Nothing super deep or crazy, but for the first one, what book has changed your mindset for the better?
Wow. Oh gosh. I'm trying to recall the book title, but it has a profanity in it.
Oh.
Don't give a...
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't. I think that's the book title, but I failed to...
Subtle Ways Not to Give One?
Yeah.
That one?
Yes.
That was good. Yeah.
Yes.
I have that on my shelf
You got it.
downstairs. So, okay, good. I like that. Do you have a specific morning routine that helps you get ready?
Yeah. Not that it's been intentional, but yeah, just the general waking up and getting ready and dressed and having that cup of coffee. I'm the one that you read about it, like, don't talk to me until I have my coffee. Like, that's not exactly true. I just find that sort of morning ritual of, again, I sort of like seek that silence and just letting everything come alive. Yeah. Because I know the 5-year-old is getting up soon.
Yep.
I know the 5-month-old is getting up soon, if not already. So that the summers I enjoy the most, because then I get to go on the porch and, again, the world's quiet. Drinking my coffee. And sometimes my wife's up, sometimes not. So that's my favorite morning ritual, is that cup of coffee in the morning and relative silence.
Yeah, for sure.
She was talking to me. I kind of felt bad this morning. So I was tired from being up with the 5-month-old. I felt like she was talking to me,
Yeah,
or at me.
at you.
Is more,
Yeah,
more appropriate. But
you're just there. I
was
get
like,
that
I'm
too.
just trying to.
Oh my goodness, a story about that. Yeah, last night we were prepping for the Indy 500. We're going to do production, so we're recording this before the Indy 500, obviously. And we were with a driver in a meet and greet. And I got home late, barely eating anything all day. And I said, all right, I told my wife, I said, all right, I'm going to get some dinner real quick. It's like 9 o'clock. And she's like, okay, great. And apparently she told me not to eat a specific thing out of the fridge. I got to the fridge. That specific thing was like, oh man, that sounds really good.
Right
I'm going to eat that. I'm going to eat that. So I warm it up. I take it back. I sit down. I've taken a few bites, and she's like, are you kidding me?
Seriously, dude?
You just ate my lunch for tomorrow. And I was like, huh? She's like, yeah, I told you when you're walking out, just don't eat that one thing. I was like, I didn't hear that at all. Like, I was out of it. So I understand talking at. I get that a lot. So what's your favorite thing about living in a small town?
It's the people.
Yeah.
And that's what my wife and I saw at a small town. We're both from Winamac, Indiana.
Okay.
And so it's half the population of Tipton.
Yeah.
And so we saw it a small town because what I find so enjoyable about being in a small town is I'm walking on the sidewalk, I recognize you in your car, and I wave to you.
Right.
Or I pass you on the roadway, I recognize who you are because it's just what I grew up doing.
Yeah.
My dad was a contractor in Winamac, Indiana. Okay. He waved to no fewer than 300 people in a town of 2,200 on his way to work.
Yeah.
So I grew up recognizing vehicles and the people in the vehicles, and that's what I do today. I could tell you a dozen people what cars they drive or more because I recognize these things. So that when I see you, I wave to you. They may not wave back,
right?
But that's what I find so enjoyable is that we know each other, and whether we're on the sidewalk, in our cars, in the store, that we can say the hellos and just be people. Yeah. I think that's so unique to a small town that it's so rare in these bigger urban areas. But to me, what's so enjoyable about being in a small town is that sense of community wasn't concentrated to friends and family. It was acquaintances and people you just recognize. And I like that.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in Greentown.
Yeah.
So barely anything there.
Right.
So,
yes.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Last one. If you give one piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
Oh, wow. 20-year-old self. I think it would be to I was going to say vacation more, but like explore more.
Yeah.
And I don't think when my wife and I, we've been high school sweethearts, so we've been together seemingly forever now.
Cool.
Longer than we've been alive, which is really hard to believe.
Yeah.
Getting old. That's all I could say. But it's I think we got so focused. I got so focused on being very diligent with money, right, to make sure that we put ourselves in a position that we could have the family, and not that wasn't important because it's really enabled us to have a good life right now. We've got a beautiful home, but to maybe take some time and celebrate the things we've accomplished, right? So whether that's a trip to the Western United States is a place I haven't visited very much of, or even down south. There's very big pockets of the South that I haven't visited yet. Or last year, 2023, we went to Croatia for our 10-year anniversary.
That's
so
awesome.
that trip to experience communities that are so unlike anything we see here in the United States. Things are older than our country is.
Exactly.
They've been doing small towns, small villages for centuries, right? So to do more of that, exploring, and whether that's in the continental United States or not, just spending more time doing that.
That's awesome.
Would be the advice I'd offer.
Yeah, I love it. I would tell my 20-year-old self the same thing. Experience
Find
more.
a career choice that allows you to keep your hair. Maybe that would be a second.
There you go. Yeah, right. Oh, man. Yeah, good luck finding that
exactly.
one. I don't think there's one. So, well, Kegan, this has been great.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, this has been awesome. I've enjoyed having you on here, especially in person for our first episode here in the office and in the recording studio. So, again, thanks so much for being on and sharing just about you, your mindset, leadership, and I know people got a lot out of it. So thanks again.
Well, good. I appreciate it, Chris. This has been a pleasure of mine.
Yeah.
So I'm honored to be the first guest here in person.
For sure. So, and if you're listening to this, make sure you share this with someone who's starting a business, who's in a leadership role, so it can benefit them, so we can help more people together. And if you haven't yet, make sure you follow the show, leave a rating and review, because you do that, we reach more people, and we make a bigger difference in the world together. But until next time, go out there, continue to elevate your life, elevate your business, and we'll talk to you again soon.